Hi, welcome to Nasha's Art. I use a lot of drawing inks in my artwork, particularly in my sketchbooks, where I like to explore pattern, design and colour in inks. The inks that I use have been the same for many years, and I thought I would step out of my comfort zone and try something new. So this video will begin with my unboxing of the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay India inks. So here are the Dr. P.H. Martin's Bombay inks. On the back they come with a leaflet introducing you to a few artists who successfully use these inks. And you can see it's a large round box with a lovely assortment of 12 different colour inks. So I'm going to cut it open now and let's take a closer look at what is in here. This protective packaging needs to be taken off first so that we can actually get at the bottles. Let's zoom in on one of these lovely bottles, this aqua green. Let's hone in on that label. What are they promising us? Light fast, waterproof, pigmented India ink, holds a line without spreading, flows smoothly without drying, non-clogging and non-toxic. Well, we'll need to try some of these things and see if it's true. It has a dropper, which is quite convenient. Looks quite good, looks promising, but we'll need to test it and try this out. So I have a few objects that I like to use with inks for mark making and drawing. So let's open up this ink. Firstly, I've got to empty the dropper because at the moment I'm not going to use the dropper, I'm going to be dipping. So that's something that I need to work out, find a scrap paper to put the dropper on so that it doesn't mess up my counter. Alright, so we have quite a small hole. Some of these things will not fit in, but let's try the ones that do. So, dipping it in now. Beautiful flow onto the mark making tool. Let's see what it's like on the paper. So far there's a lovely flow to the ink. And it's got a great pigment to it. Really nice feel, kind of silky smooth. Let's try another tool. Maybe we'll try a brush this time. Absolutely lovely with the brush. You can really get the thick and the thin lines, and I love when the brush separates and it forms these kind of dynamic marks on the paper. That's what I love when I do my mark making. Let's try slightly different marks now. So far it works beautifully and I'm really happy with it. The only thing I noticed though is the inks I used to use, they had a little sheen on them, so they didn't look like paint. They had a slight satin sheen, which I can't see on this yet. Let's try a few other colours. Let's go for reds. Reds are quite important because you want them to be really bright. Let's have a look at this dropper and how it works. I'm going to try taking a bit of those bits of paint and moving them about with my mark making tools. That is a stunning colour. Really lovely, lovely colour. For me, the waterproofness of ink is really important because should I want to layer other mediums on top that are water-based, for example watercolour or gouache, I want to make sure that the ink doesn't mix in with those colours. So I'm just placing a simple watercolour wash of yellow over the ink to test how waterproof it really is, and lo and behold, it is very waterproof. So that's a very big positive for me. I do enjoy using quite thick mark making tools and brushes with ink, and as I mentioned earlier, the neck to the bottle is quite thin, which poses the issue of actually trying to get the paint onto the mark making tool. So for this, I think I'm going to have to use another small container. So a bit of problem solving here, pouring the ink out, which of course can be a little wasteful. So that's not ideal for me personally. But let's try the ink anyway with these other tools and see how it fares then. So this is a kind of browny colour. It's an alright colour. Not that pleased with it, but it's okay. The one that's really important for me is the black. So let's have a go and see how rich the black is. Because for me, I use a lot of black in my artwork. And it's quite important that the black is rich and deep and very, very solid. So this is called sepia actually. I thought it was black. Take a quick look at the sepia. Again, I wouldn't call that sepia normally, I'd call that charcoal. So that's quite interesting, the naming of that particular colour. Where is the black? I don't think it has a black. So this set of inks does not come with a black, which I find really strange. So that's a big downside for this set of inks, is that they don't come with black. That's really surprising. Okay, so I want to show you something very cool about the container and the design of it. So I've got my yellow ink, and I've also got a yellow ink from another brand that I'm going to test and compare. The other brand is Camel, and I've been using this for years and I'm very happy with it. So we'll see how it compares. But now back to the design. So I'm going to unlid or uncork the yellow, and what's great about the design is I can sit my open bottle safely in the container, and this bit, the dropper, I can actually put in the little hole next to it to keep it safe. So that's very good. I really like that. Okay, let's try our new ink, the yellow, and see how it fares compared to my old brand. It's not very bright. I would say it's a bit more like watercolor than ink. Let me try with another brush, see if there's any difference there. So it's quite pale. If I put it on thickly, it's a bit brighter obviously, but it feels more like watercolor. Okay, let's have a try of my Camel brand. So I'm going to wash my brush out, make sure it's a fair test. Dry the brush a bit. Okay, let's have a go with my Camel brand. This is my go-to ink and has been for years. Let's see how it compares to the Dr. P.H. Martin. Slightly dried up, but still, let's have a look. It is an old ink, so I've had it for a while, so it's a little bit thick because of the dryness. But it's definitely a brighter, more intense colour. I prefer my Camel brand. I like the thickness of the ink. It's more inky without being so thick that it's like paint. And I like the richness of the colour. It's definitely richer than the Dr. P.H. Martin. So that's interesting. Let's test another two colours that claim to be the same. These were both the yellows, the Camel yellow and the Dr. P.H. Martin yellow. Let's test another two colours which claim to be the same colours. So I've got an orange in the Camel, and let's check the orange with Dr. P.H. Martin. Let's compare those two as well. Maybe it was just a fluke that the yellow in the Dr. P.H. Martin was so pale, because it is pale, isn't it? So I'm going to take that sheet off, leave it to dry, and we'll have another look at it in a minute when it's dry. And let's test the oranges now, see how those fare. Okay, so we've got our orange here in our Dr. P.H. Martin, and we've got our orange in the Camel. Time to test both of them and see. I'm going to test this time, I'm going to test the Camel first. Dipping my brush in, let's take a look. Again, you can almost already see how rich it is, how richly pigmented. Right, oh, that is beautifully smooth. Really lovely. Inky feel. Very rich, bright, deep colour. Stays on the brush for quite a while. Overall, a beautiful inky experience there. I'm going to take a similar brush and we'll try the Dr. P.H. Martin's, and let's see what that's like. Give it a shake in case it needs a shake. All right. Lid off. I do love this little design with the bottle holder. I think it's very neat. But let's try the actual ink. Here we go. Lovely flow to it. Definitely a paler colour, not as intense. Does last quite long on the brush, so it's great for mark making. So, comparisons. The P.H. Martins in general, I feel, are paler, less dramatic colours than the Camel, which is the brand that I always used to use. They don't sit as thickly on the page and they haven't got an inky sheen to them. You can see here as this is drying, it's slightly shiny. We can take a look at the dried, almost dried, other tests. And you can see this is the Dr. P.H. Martin yellow, and it's not got much of a shine on it. This does because it's still a little damp, but here it's dry and it dries a bit like watercolour. This yellow is my previous brand, the Camel, and you can see there's a gentle sheen on parts of the yellow, and that's something I really like about these inks. Now another ink I really like drawing with is the Windsor and Newton drawing ink. This one is the Black India ink. Now you can see how much and how popular this is with me because it's so messy, you can barely read it, but it is Windsor and Newton. Now the Dr. P.H. Martins don't actually have a black, so that's a bit strange and I'm quite disappointed with that, and I can't compare the Windsor and Newton black with anything, but I can show you what that is like. It's a rich, deep black. I actually use this black over acrylic paints on canvas, and I even varnish over it sometimes with Liquitex varnish to protect it, and if you were careful, the ink doesn't actually spread. It's a really nice jet black ink. Great for mark making, great for drawing. I absolutely love it. And I'm very disappointed that the P.H. Martins does not have a black to compare it with. So that for me would be a big no-no. But if you're someone who doesn't use black much, then I guess it wouldn't matter so much. But for me, black is super important, black ink. Briefly, I might add that my Camel brand also comes with black, unlike the Dr. P.H. Martins. So let's just test that black as well. I'm going to use one of my other favourite mark making tools, which is this deer antler. And again, the black is stunning. It is jet black, it's rich, it's dark. It's also running out, but it's because I've used it so much because it's so good. But you can see it's really an excellent rich black colour, which is just what you want really. Lovely for doing pattern work, calligraphy, designs, all that sort of thing. So that's the Camel Black as well. Something I love to use is inks on either canvas or wood on top of acrylic paints. It's kind of a mixed media technique. So I'm trying out the Dr. P.H. Martin's in this way to see how it fares. And using the dropper as an applicator, it's quite nice because the ink comes out thicker. And so the colour is more rich, which for me, when using inks, is what I look for. Let's try the aqua. That would suit this piece of artwork well. So the dropper applicator is a good thing for these inks. We saw earlier applying it to paper does make them quite mild. So if you like using mild, sort of less strong colours in your artwork, then they're probably a good choice for you. Finally, something I absolutely adore doing is using black lines across my work. So you can see here it works really well. Adding some dynamic marks to the piece over everything else. And if your black is really solid like this, it can add a lovely effect, a spontaneity to the piece. So my Windsor and Newton black and my Camel Black are stunning. The Dr. P.H. Martin's, unfortunately, only goes down to India ink Van Dyke Brown and India ink Sepia, so no black. I hope you found this tutorial useful. It gives you a much better idea of what you're getting with these inks. They're quite expensive, so it's worth having a check and seeing whether you do actually need them. If you want something that's a bit more muted, you're not into too bright colours, and you definitely don't care about not getting a black, then these are pretty good. You get a lot of range of colours with them. If you're looking for much brighter inks, richer, more pigmented, these are the ones to go for. The Windsor and Newton or the Camel. Really nice bright selection of inks, rich in colour, and they also dry with a little bit of a subtle sort of sheen, slightly shiny, which I really like personally. I hope you found this video useful. Please do like and subscribe, and if you want to check out my artwork, you can find me on Insta and Facebook at Nash Henkel Art.